while we're up here, let's refresh you and my memories on what we're actually building here. Hey folks, welcome back. It's a big barn build. Today, well, it's colder inside than outside because we're missing out on all that nice spring sunshine. However, the floor is going down. As you can see, we've made fairly good progress. We're still about halfway, but stick around. I'm going to show you some of the funny ins and outs of chipboard flooring. Some of the bits we've been up to behind the scenes, because we didn't carry on filming everything because a lot of it was same old, same old. So we've been carrying on fitting joists and bits that we kind of left out as we were working our way around, and one of those things that we've managed to get done now is the corner wall, which is the wall between the house and the pool room. And now that's green, it's kind of given us all the walls finished around the building. I say it's all finished, there's a few bits to do still. We haven't actually nailed all the tops of the boards in yet because we were working from down below, but they're all in. And look, we're up. All of our boards arrived yesterday, or at least the first wave of materials. So we've temporarily done this walkway down, and we're going to be starting from that end, working through. Then we've got a steel post to get welded in next Monday. So we can only come so far with the boards. But that is all going to happen in the coming week or two. Yesterday, we knocked up some stairs because we need a safe way of getting up and down. Going to put some handrails on that today, I think. But the priority today is just finish the last batch of joists. So what we were waiting for, which was kind of holding everything up, was our steel for the front, which is between the porch entrance area and the main living area. So now that's in up there, got the hangers on. We can get these joists in, and the walkway. So there's a landing balcony type section which runs across. It's about 1.5 meters wide. So there's 4 joists and a double joist, which means at that point everything is ready, so we can clear down and just move on to the next stage, which is going to be the flooring. Not sure if it's better or worse without the lights on. That was blinding, that thing. It needs to be hung up on the roof. We are making a start on the flooring today, and so far so good. Everyone kind of says glue and screw, or no nails, or just glue, and I'll talk through those options later on in the video because I don't know why everyone has to feel different about it. NHBC, building control, everyone. But we've picked our own method, and I'll share that with you. We might even try a different method somewhere else in the building, and then this can be a real world scenario, and I can tell you in 5 years time if one squeaks more than another. Hopefully it's going to be a silent floor throughout. But let me swing the camera around and I'll show you what we've been up to. So there you go, 4 courses down, PU glue, limited fixings. So there's not actually as many fixings as when we did the cabin, and I'll show you that in detail probably tomorrow with some better filming. And it's going okay, lots of dripping. Underneath it's like stalactites of foam. And it looks like a proper mess underneath, which is exactly what we want. It's squeezing out, foaming, everything just looks super sticky. And as soon as that firms up, we can chip it all off at the top and everything if we had to underneath. But that's the evidence that we need to see, but also building control like to see apparently. Just needs a bit of acoustic insulation in between that and the plasterboard. And potentially even some little isolation strips if we've really felt the need. You can get some sort of felt strips that I think you put on the underside of the joist just to isolate it a little bit, but I think it's going to be just fine. Welcome back to site. We're going upstairs, a bit of welding today, and then we're going to carry on with our flooring. So Dave's up from sunny Bristol, and we're going to get this column in. There's just a post which goes up from our big steel beam, and it's going to support the ridge on the existing steels. That was just part and parcel of the structural sort of package that we had to put together to apparently make this place even stronger than it needs to be. But it's not going to blow over. Is a plumb line that we've kind of dropped down from the ridge. The ridge's got 2 plates, like up there, and the top of the steel is plated. It's going to be exactly the same profile steels as downstairs. So those steel 100 by 100. What are they? 6 mil? 8 mil?
Yeah, 6 mil.
6 mil square hollow section, and plate down to here. So hopefully we're going to keep things relatively cool, and it's not going to end up setting fire to all of this timber around here. Obviously we wanted to be able to get the floor up here for access because it was a bit easier, especially getting to the top. I'm trusting Dave here. I'll get a fire extinguisher just in case. It will feel like it's not pissing, but let's go out that way. Come on. What have you thought?
I know the stills in there, so we put it in.
Beauty.
Right, that's it.
It shows how much it was, just a tiny bit. Okay, towards you, 5 mil. Right, it's in. A little bit of fiddling to get it really nice and snug, but obviously it's hard because it's not like we're jacking up the roof to get it in, but it needs to be super snug. So, and they're just so unforgiving steel, so got it absolutely bang on, slid it in. So Dave brought this old bed sheet up with him to make sure the sparks don't drop down. So that's very kind of him. Hopefully his wife doesn't mind. And then weld top and bottom, and then that is done. That will be hidden inside a 120mm stud wall. Right, no radio mics today, so hopefully you can hear me over lawnmowers and whatever else is going on. Good progress. I'm pleased to say that we kind of found a good rhythm. Dad and I started at the far end. I carried on through, then Tom and I did most of this section here. One thing we had to do at the beginning of the week is to get this green wall done, because this kind of means that we can tape all that up, get the air tightness done, and then we can floor up to it. Of course, there's a gap all the way around the outside of the floor, but it's just far easier to have that done. So this actually becomes the master bedroom, these two bays, with the French windows out into the garden room. So there's a lot of handrails to put up, so don't fear, they will be going up very soon. But that's what this space is. So what we decided to do is go with 22mm chipboard flooring, fairly standard. We've got 400 centres, so that's, you know, good. As far as our floor system goes, we've used our I-joists. Actually, let me explain the spec of what we decided to go with. Right, so behind me you can see enough of them. The I-joists that we've used. So exactly the same timber, exactly the same material that we've used in all of our wall systems and lintels around the building. So we simplified it by going with one material. That meant offcuts from one could be used for another application. And we have used that. We've got very few lengths left from the wall, and what we have had left we can use for either short runs or noggins in the floor system. So originally, the design that James Jones sent us, when we sent kind of the building and the spans and things, they came back and said what I guess the minimum or the standard requirement would be, and that was the 245mm joists, I-joists, at 600 centres. And there was some extra bits in where walls and partitions landed. So that meant using 245mm joists when we had 300mm joists on site for our walls. So there was a bit of a, you know, they didn't match, and we couldn't do that using up one for the other. And also we were quite keen for 400 centres. So we actually ended up double upgrading on the floor. We went to 400 centres, up to 300mm joists. So we're kind of well beyond what was required for our spans and our loads and things like that. But hopefully that should give us a much stiffer, stronger floor, less bounce, less problems, or, you know, just in general, just a super strong floor. We've got steel within it. We've got, you know, I keep referring to this building to other people as it's basically a timber frame house now, but it's steel reinforced, because nearly all of our walls, our stud walls, internal and external, are load bearing, or of that, they're rated for that. So originally, our very first plans, these were posi joists. Posi joists are when you've got timber top and bottom flanges or cords or whatever you call them, and then you've got steel strapping in the web. That means you've got loads of holes or loads of space to run services through. However, for me, it became apparent that one, we weren't using those for the wall, so yet again we weren't able to kind of cross over, but they lend themselves far more to a build when you're starting with a virgin plot, putting walls up, everything's millimetre perfect, and you can drop them in, because quite often I think they don't sit in hangers, they sit on the tops, and so you're not really cutting on site with those, and you can't be cutting where all the steels are, and yes, I'm sure we could have made it work, but the benefit of our sort of quirky building, and, well, not benefit, but the result of having a slightly off square building or slightly odd layout and unique setup is that we could just cut these wherever we wanted, and that's what we've got. So there's no need to worry about pre-ordering engineered trusses exactly the right length or anything like that. So I joist with the way forwards, and I think I mean, I don't have any issues with that. It is so strong over there. Now we've got the deck down and it's glued, and it's just, everything feels so solid. Right. It's kind of the worst filming lights, but you can see a bit better now. So 22mm floor, super solid. Obviously we've got loads of strength in the joist, but chipboard flooring seems to be one of those things that everyone's got an opinion on, and everyone has their own kind of method for fixing it down. One of the most head-scratching parts of the build so far. It should be a simple thing, but I'm going to share with you why 4 manufacturers of pretty much the same product have 4 completely different ideas on how it should be done. Typical, I try and be really organised and get it all prepared for the video, but I've got no signal, so I'm going to share with you from memory. There's various different chipboard manufacturers. There's Chipboard, Egger, this one is Chronospan, and there's others. But everyone seems to have a different way of doing it. Now typically, you know, years and years ago, be nailed off, and then that's when you hear about, you know, just nails. That's when you hear about people having really squeaky floors. So that's one thing we wanted to avoid. A lot of people swear by just, you know, by screws, no nails at all. Others, it's all about the glue. And then obviously there's different types of glue. So when we did the cabin, we used Egger Protect, which is the Egger chipboard with a plastic film on top, so that we could do it all through the winter and leave it exposed. We didn't need to do that in here. But Egger, from memory, are the ones that say fix off the outsides with fixings, ring shank nails, and then no more fixings throughout the whole build. It's just glue, 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 glue. PU foamy glue. And I guess the benefit of that is there is absolutely no chance of squeaking because you've got no metal on wood contact, which is where the squeaks happen. Chipboard, I mean, if I get this wrong, I'll annotate it on the screen. Chipboard or Chipboard flooring, they, I think, had just the leading edge. Every 1200 a fixing, or every 600, so you weren't, almost a bit like feather edge fencing or tongue and groove, you were only nailing one side of the board, knowing that the previous tongue and groove was holding it in. Chronospan went for fairly standard glue and nails with one fixing, I think it was one fixing both sides of the board. And then other manufacturers, including the building regs, standard sort of requirement on NHBC is to have 3 nails or fixings on every width of the board. So you kind of got, you end up with 4 different, completely different options. You've got one with no fixings at all, one with quite a lot of fixings, and then something in between. So we kind of went for something in between. Now first up, I was going to glue and screw, and I thought, you know, belts and braces, that's worth doing. And then I thought, well, actually, the whole cabin I did with load of glue, ring shank nails, and there's not a squeak or a peep from that floor at all, and it's, you know, it's a big old slab of a floor deck. So I was quite reassured by that. I think it's all about the glue, to be honest. So glue's the way forwards. So we've got PU glue here, the stuff that foams up, drips everywhere underneath. I'll show you underneath in a minute, because that's one thing you want to see, a right nest underneath. And then we've gone for 63mm, I think they're 63 or, you know, whatever it is. It's meant to be a board, 2.5 boards width in length, ring shank nails nailed in. And I've gone for one on the back of the board and one on the front edge of the board. And the reason for that, we started by just doing the front edge like it's one of the manufacturers suggested. If you do that and you look underneath, you can see that it's not really clamping the glue down or the board down quite as much as you want. You can still see a bit of a millimetre gap. Now the glue will foam and fill that completely, but I just felt like it was nice to know that we've got full contact board on joist, and so I was using the nail, standing right by it, firing it in, making sure that it's in below the surface of the wood obviously, and then letting the glue do the work. So really the nails are only being used while the glue's going off. Now this glue, once it's gone off, yeah, those nails don't need to be there. So you could screw that, or you could even weigh it down if it was a small room. By the time you've moved on to the next board, it's bubbling, it's foaming up. So this, you can see here, is what's come up, filled any joins, completely sealed that, and bonded it to the joist below. So the most important thing, like I said, is the glue. We've gone for glue on all the joists, glue on the tongue, glue in the groove, same on the ends, glue on the tongue. So you've got a double bead on both parts of the board, beads on the joist, double bead on a joist where two short ends meet. It's just glue everywhere, and it's expensive stuff. We use chipstick, and that's what I used on the cabin. Absolutely fine, and it's about half the price of the branded stuff, but it's still a PU glue. I'll show you a box now. Get some rubber gloves, just some normal disposable gloves, because it'll go everywhere. You can see, because you're kneeling down, your toes end up on the previous join, you get glue all over that, and you know, it's a bit of a mess. While we're up here, let's refresh you and my memories on what we're actually building here. If you get your bearings, that's what we're looking like. Front door's down there, stairwell's over there, and the big void is over there. So with that in mind, this is what you're looking at. So this end of the building, we've got two bedrooms with the windows at the end here. Wall comes off the middle of those two. And then you got family bathroom, which is in this area here. Some of this is cupboard space from this bedroom. The stairwell over here, which is going to be left open, our temporary stairs, we're going to move from where they are now, lift them, fix them in place here, and then they're out of the way during the build. And this curved staircase, well, we're still undecided on that, who and how it's done, so we'll wait, but that's a nice standalone thing that could go in anytime, go in nearer the end of the build if it needed to. The master bedroom, like I was saying, is the front, so that's our French windows here now, and ensuite dressing room, which is basically all of this side over here, which means that Joe and I are the ones in the building who have no view as such. We've got second-hand light that's being bounced in from our garden room down there. You can see out to the garden through the French doors anyway, but you know, if and when we ever wanted to, like on our very original plans that we never got through, we would be putting in a roof terrace balcony bit there. So it's future-proofed, but we're perfectly happy with that. It's lovely light in there in the evening because it all just comes flooding through, and there'll be Veluxes to go in as well. So that's the master bedroom, and then down the far end, almost a mirror image, but slightly different from what's on the plan. It's bedroom 4 here, bedroom 5, which is now a bedroom because we've had a baby since this one, and we've decided to move this a little bit just to even out these two bedrooms. And what we've also done is down the far end where we've got our 3 tall windows. Originally it was going to be 2 of those windows were going to belong to one room and a wall come off one of the uprights and a single window on the left. We've now decided to take our sort of landing hallway down to the middle one, so there'll be a wall, a stud wall that comes off each of the pillars. I'll kind of go over there and show you now, but that's kind of how we're looking over there. So 2 ends of the building, we're in the middle, noisy kids at that end, the younger ones over here maybe, and that is the upstairs. So plenty to get on with. These are the loft spaces. So this one you can ignore, that's where the pool room is. This is all loft space over here, but the end there is where we're going to have our ventilation plant room, or essentially just the 2 or 3 MVHR units that are going to have to sit up there. You want those on the north wall anyway, so that's an ideal place for them to be. Ducting will then come up and run down the middle of the building. Over here is full height ceiling in the kitchen. Here is the full height ceiling in the garden room, and here is above the snug. I'll show you that now. So the whole idea for the snug room downstairs, the lounge, was to have it a bit more snuggy. So we put a flat ceiling in there, and that's created this loft space. But because we've used those solid joists in there, they are 70mm shorter. So we have stepped down into there, into the loft space. So the wall will come across on the edge of these chipboard sheets. Not the best lighting again, I'm afraid. So the wall will come off that corner OSB, and that will be the end bedroom wall. But we've then got a little door in that wall that will go through into this loft space, which may or may not become a little play area or something. But you know, that's just more regular loft space. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's a feature here in the middle of the room now, which wasn't here last time. And if you are on Patreon, you'll know all about this. Joe came in and filmed a very spontaneous video on this pole. May or may not have involved me dancing on it. But anyway, I think she even put it up as a open to wall post. So if you want to see one of the like walk around tours or videos that Joe does over on Patreon, you can go and have a look without being a member. And then if you want to, you can join us over there, and you get them regular. I think one a week Joe does. She normally catches me off guard. I'm doing something I shouldn't be. But so that day came up, welded in. So that is just offering some support to our ridge. Now the reason for that is everywhere else we've got a wall underneath a steel to take some of the roof load. Here, because we've got a small wall over there, but nothing much, and all of this is open plan because this bedroom spans 2 bays, the structural engineer put this in, which will be concealed inside a central sort of stud wall that runs down here, and it's just a bit more support. And I lopped off a bit of steel off an old gate whilst Dave was here, and he just welded that in. The reason for that is this long handrail along here is going to be a stud wall. You know, handrail height stud wall, and I just thought having 1 or 2 steels in it which we can bolt the stud to is just going to mean that we've got super solid, you know, no chance of it moving and cracking plasterboard or anything like that. So finally, I can't go too far, but you'll see that we've got our 3 windows that end, which in exciting news are only 3 weeks away from being here. So we're just talking about having the stud walls that split the bedrooms off coming off those centre 150mm columns, and I think that just means that you'll end up with a little 2 metre, I don't know what it'll be because you're not going to walk right up to the window, maybe you will, somewhere to bung a Christmas tree I guess, but a nice light coming through there which will come all the way through, and although it faces north you still get a nice sky to look at. You'll be able to see as you walk across the landing here with the handrail on the left, you'll be able to see that right from the centre of the building, and it just means that you'll flow through a bit. You won't just have a wall, you know, 4 metres off the end. Now this video was meant to be about chipboard flooring, and we should get back to that quickly. I didn't film loads of it because, well, I don't know what there is to show. I've got some time lapse, but I'll show you the sort of gaps we've been leaving, because I think that's probably another worthwhile thing to keep in mind if you're doing a large floor. All of our external walls get counter-battened, and our battens are almost 40mm thick or 38mm thick. So our plasterboard will be out here, and then we've got skirting board outside that. So any gap is fine. We know that's covered. So we've pretty much left a 20mm gap all the way around the outside, which means that we're at least getting onto that timber that's bolted to the wall. With the boards, there's no actual gap all the way through, so which is, you know, beneficial for sound travelling through. Which leads me on to another particularly vague specification that seems to be put out by all the manufacturers and building regs, which is the expansion gap rule. They all talk about if a large area of chipboard flooring is being put down, then you need to give a break in the floor, allow for a break, and it says 2 millimeters per metre, or minimum of 10mm or something like that. And what that means is a break actually in the room underneath, in a doorway or underneath a wall or something like that. These are at large areas, so we've gone and done that, but it doesn't say what the threshold is. How big can you go before you need one of these breaks? So we have done this all as one, but when we've got above a wall where we've got a continuous run of noggins all the way through, we've put a joint. So here you go, here's a joint. That is giving us our break there. And then we positioned another one here. Move that shadow away. You can see one there. Now that sits underneath a wall, which is quite handy. So that meant that we didn't have to have a joint in the middle of the bedroom, just in case there was a little hump or a bit of variation. This is all carpet up here, so I don't think you'd feel it anyway. So gap all the way along the outside. Obviously there's nothing at the edges there, but this gap runs all the way through the centre of the building, up to here, this point there, which we did another gap, so then that starts us with a new bay. At this point we decided we're actually going to take the flooring all the way through to the last eye joist in the loft space, and then we'll put the partition wall in line with the steels. It's just easier, and it's almost 4 full boards, less cuts, and it's just a nicer finish. And then when we get to the end over here, if I can duck through, we'll have a join along here. I'm going to rip this back with a track saw because there's a noggin about here, and then over this area will be its own kind of section as well. Then you get to the far end. We haven't quite decided if we're going to board out that bit over there. I think at that point we're just going to end up boarding and hoarding if we have more loft space right down into the eaves. So we might just stop at the end of the eye joists. Remember, we decided to switch to the solid joists over there. I don't think we need to go that far in for storage, so we might just put a little wall up to the roof. Right, let me take you down, because this is the important bit. This is the messy bit, the drippy bit, and what you want to see, apparently. It's what building regs want to see as well. All right, a couple of tips, a bit of takeaways for you. If you're working on a site where there's lots of other people, you've got someone downstairs, for example, don't, because they'll have PU glue dripping on the head all day. So you don't want anyone below you, and you want to sheet up. So this is obviously our polished concrete floor, or will be polished concrete. So we had this big sheet of DPC underneath it, and then we've moved it across, and then we're covering tools and stuff like that, because it's like little pitter-patter raindrops when you're working up there. So this is what we're looking like underneath, stalactites. You can see that when you put a board down and then you slide it into place, you leave a bit of glue behind on there as well. So if you can, you want to get it as accurately in line with where it's going, and then slot it in rather than kind of trying to slide it in place. But all the way through here, plenty of squeeze out. Another thing we did is anywhere there was steel work, so where the top of the hangers were bent over, although they were a fraction lower than the top of the joists, we made sure there was a load of glue over the top of that, just to make sure there was something between steel and wood, so no squeak risk there either. We also glued the glue lambs to the edge glue lamb blocking to the boards, and we put some timber shims in there just to make sure that any areas were completely in contact. Same along here, all oozed out. That's going to be track sawed back, and then that's obviously where the staircase will come up to in the future. So it's a messy job, but it's worthwhile glooping it on. We spent probably about £300 on glue. I think we've 36 bottles I got, and they're about £11 each. That's quite a lot of money actually, isn't it? So therefore, if it was a smaller room, I would suggest load of PU glue and some 60mm screws, or whatever they need to be in thickness, in length, and you're absolutely fine. You've got no risk of nails moving because you've used screws, and to be honest, it's the glue that's doing the work anyway. Such a large expanse, we decided to use ring shank nails. Again, I have no worry, I'm not going to lose sleep over those squeaking with all this glue. But glue and screw, probably the most belt and braces approach. And if we ever want to, we've still got probably at least a year before anything goes down on this floor. If there was ever any hint of a squeak, I'd probably go through and just screw off the whole lot, just because I'm like that. Probably not as much on the tool action as you'd like, but like I said, I'm not sure how much you can show. If I get any done today, I'll probably throw a bit of that into this video. Otherwise, I'm sure it'll be in the next, because we've got to finish the other end next week. And the aim being that we're going to leave ourselves probably a week and a half worth of days at the end of the month to prepare for our doors and windows that are arriving. So 1st of April, doors are be here. Well, everything will be here, but the doors are what's being fitted by the company, and then we're going to fit the windows and other doors. Which is probably the best place to describe that is here. So over here we've got all of that temporary sheeting and studs to come out. That is all going to be done in sliding doors, so a sliding door on each side of the steel. This one down here, French doors going through into the kitchen. Don't lean out, Tim, you idiot. And then finally that light threshold down there is where our really nice sliding doors go all the way through. That needs to be sorted out as well. We've got the right depth, we just need to put some insulation and backfill that cavity ready for it. And that needs hand railing as well. Plus we butchered out our window that was too small. Quick plug, the new hats are in stock. They don't come covered in sawdust, I promise. They're all labelled and lovely. The If You Can DIY hats are back on the website, navy bobble hats, and if you want to get them, head over there. I think Joe's listed them already and a few people will be buying them, so there's limited numbers because we're just doing a batch at a time now. Anyway, in other news, we have a bigger window. So this window we framed up at the original size, and then we changed it. During the survey I thought it just was too small, so we changed it to a square. That meant knocking out the stud, sorting it all out. So that needs to be taped up around the perimeter, ready for the window to arrive. There's actually really no rush to get the windows in. Once they're on site, they're on site, but I don't really want them kicking around getting damaged. So probably the safest place is fitted. Once the guys are here fitting from Eco House, they're coming to do the sliders. We're doing on-site training with them just to make sure we're happy with what we're doing, and then we'll carry on and do these. We just need to I need to get a little more airtight tape and foam and stuff ready for them. We fitted loads of windows before. Joe and I did the cabin, and Tom's used to fitting windows, but we're spending so much money on these windows. A good window poorly fitted is no good, so we're going to make sure that this is a really good install, because a lot of our efficiency from the windows is down to that gap around the outside, how you deal with that, how you deal with the air tightness, and then of course on the outside the sill and the flashing. Finally, I'm off on a bit of a road trip tomorrow. Tom's doing a job nearby and there's an oak frame porch to build, and he's asked if I can go and give him a hand, so I'm going to see if I can film a little bit of that as well. It means I can dust off some of the tools. I'm going to go and sharpen up my chisels now. I've got to change the blade on the bandsaw, and then we're going to get going. So that'll be quite fun to share, because we're only a matter of weeks off being able to do some of our own oak framing around the outside, because that needs to be done before any red brick can come on site. I'm going to leave it there. I'm exhausted from talking, you're exhausted from listening, I'm sure. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time. It's not quite as smooth as I'm used to.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm screaming about.
You're screaming with excitement or worry that I'm gonna fall?
Exactly.